Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thought. Now let's start the video. My men had arrived, though, for reasons they didn't have to know, nor I wanted to share. They had to wait on the coast for hours. But after my shenanigans with my wife, I went down to greet my men, Daenerys by side. "So this is our fleet?" Daenerys inquired, head high, full of regal air. She was so different to other, and yet so warm with me. "It is my queen," I smiled as I pulled her close to me by her waist. "Do you like it?" Daenerys giggled as she nodded. "I do, but I think I like the man leading it more." "What a lucky man that must be, to be loved by a queen," I grinned, giving her a quick and sweet peck in the lips. "He is quite lucky indeed," Daenerys teased. Frankly, she made me forget at times what world I was in. It was hard not to get lost in those purple mystifying eyes. "Well, while I would love to kiss you all day, my queen, we have some matters to attend to." I kissed her one last time as I added, "Shall we?" "Unfortunately, you are right. Let's," Daenerys nodded. We approached the ships as we were greeted by one of the lords who bowed to us, which was in itself weird. I still had yet to declare myself King of the Seven Kingdoms. "Your Majesties," the lord bowed. Seeing my look of befuddlement, the lord elaborated, "You married a Targaryen. We might be dumb, but we ain't that dumb." I didn't know if I should be surprised or something else, but he was right nonetheless. I decided to end this wheel before my marriage. My beautiful wife just makes my conquest even more important, for her enemies are mine. With that, the lord turned to Daenerys. "My queen, we first bowed to dragons and more recently to the bears. We are honored to serve you both." The lord bowed once again. Daenerys smiled, satisfied with his words. "Very well," I took a step forward as I asked, "How is the South?" Last thing we heard before leaving was that Robert Baratheon broke your betrothal to Sansa Stark, and that Lord Stark was appointed as the new hand of the king, and was going south with him, the Lord answered, which gave me a rough idea timeline-wise where we were. Daenerys shifted uncomfortably at the mention of Sansa, which reminded me, I had yet to talk with her about that. It just never came up that I was engaged. "Very well, make sure all men are well rested. Tomorrow we begin," I ordered him as I took my wife by the hand softly to a more private area. Once we were alone, I sighed and said, "Ask whatever you want." Daenerys eyed me carefully before she asked, with a hint of worry on her voice, "Do you love her?" "Heavens, no, she is a sweet and innocent girl, but I don't love her. All I feel for her is some kind of brotherly love. If you must put a name to it," I answered. "And because of that brotherly bond that I alone form with her, is that I want to protect her." Daenerys relaxed with a hint of happiness by my answer as she asked, "But she loves you?" "I think she does, or at least is in love with the idea of the knight in shining armor." I projected. I shrugged playfully. "She might hate me for all I know when she hears I marry you." "Good. Let her. Only I get to mount this teddy bear, and if I must be hated for it, so be it." Daenerys laughed as she gave me a passionate kiss. "You don't hear me complaining," I smiled, reciprocating the kiss. After greeting my men at the coast, I went to Illyrio to make sure everything I asked him was in order. Weapons, food, medicine, and guides to help us understand and find our way in this land. "Magister, is everything in order?" I inquired, entering his office. "I have found everything you asked for, from food and maps to guides and weapons." Idero nodded, giving a detailed list including the prices for each thing. "Good. Everything seems to be in order," I said as I check every item on the list. "I will get you the payment soon." "Very well. Anything else, Your Majesty?" Olzero inquired. "Nothing for now. That'll be all for now." The time to conquer Essos had finally come. I had the men, the resources, and a general idea on how to proceed. Let the fucking game finally begin. After leaving my men to rest, the Unsullied working for Ilro to take care that the stuff I bought got to their hands, I decided to go to sleep early. This might be the last good night of sleep I would probably have in quite a while, I suppose. In a way, it was my honeymoon with Daenerys, because after today, things would start shaking. War like I'd never seen or experienced before would begin. But for today, I would enjoy my last free day with my wife, and with that in mind, I entered the room that has been our room since we married. "I've been waiting for you," Daenerys smiled as she approached me, putting her arms around my neck and legs around my waist as she kissed me. "Tomorrow our destiny awaits, my king." "Aye, it does, my queen," I chuckled as I kissed her back. "I wanted to talk to you about something," Daenerys said with a somewhat serious tone, as if she had done something wrong. "That never ends well. But go on. I eyed her with curiosity. I don't think there was something besides trying to kill me that would make me angry with her. Is about your father? Daenerys said. Well, maybe I was too hasty to say. She can't get me angry. But I wasn't angry at her. I was angry at the soon-to-be-dead man that ignored my threat. I grabbed my sword and started to leave. I'll be back. I have an old bear to kill. Wait, hear me out first, Daenerys said, with eyes that said, if what I have to say doesn't convince you, you are free to kill him. Very well, I sighed, pushing the huge knee to bash my father's skull against the floor. I know what he did. He told me so. How he abandoned you and left you with a broken house, Daenerys said as she grabbed my hands. I know the sins he committed trying to please that vile woman instead of thinking of his family. I know all of that. Then you know why I want to kill him, I inquired, curious as to where she was going with this. Let him pay for his sins and blood. Let him pay what he owes us by fighting for us. Daenerys said with a cold tone, he wronged you. Let him pay with steel all he did, so that his miserable life amounts to something in our name. Frankly, I was both incredibly aroused and somewhat intrigued. I did not expect her to offer such a deal. So in other words, we let him serve. So if he dies is by helping us, I said, summarizing what she said. Daenerys smiled. Yes, he will pay for your suffering with blood or with fire, but he will pay. All right, I don't see anything wrong with that, I nodded as I scooped her over with one hand. Now, how about we make this night a memorable one? Don't we do that every night? Daenerys giggled. Is it so bad that I want every night to be memorable? I smirked. The next morning, I woke up early to the dawning rising sun, and my first thing on my to-do list was to start coordinating the logistics of what we were going to do once we were outside of Pentos. I had already ordered my ravens previously to spread out and look all over Essos. Their mission was simple to find as many Dothrakis tribes as possible. The bigger the Khalasar, the better. Once they located some, they would have to come back to me, giving me their general location. That way, I would find them giving me the element of surprise and time to plan how to subdue them. So far, I had the location of 3 small Khalasars, with each one having around 1,000 to 3,000 riders or able warriors. While I wanted to know where the biggest Khalasar were and absorb them, I would target the small Khalasars first. Because while my plan of using their horses might work, it might also backfire me terribly. If the awful case scenario they for some reason believed I was using some kind of black sorcery things would go bad, especially if I was outnumbered. I was a super soldier, not a god. It would be stupid to target Khals like Drogo at first. He would obliterate me in sheer numbers. That's why I wanted to target smaller Khalasars, because if my plan went wrong, I would have enough manpower to subdue them. Today is the day, Daenerys smiled, snapping me out of my long reverie, standing right beside me. Aye, I nodded, as I walked to the coast with my wife and some of our men guarding us. My men had rested and were ready to march. Hilario had provided them with all the items I had ordered for this specific campaign. We are ready, my king, the commander of my men announced. Good, I acknowledged. As we started to move out of Pentos, after making sure everything was ready, we left Pentos, following the directions one of my ravens gave me to the smallest Khalasar they had found so far. This would be the perfect target to test run and see if I could do like I did with the Ironborn, and make them believe I was some kind of chosen one. If that didn't work, I would have to resort to plan B, either kill the Khal and claim the Khalasar, which I wasn't entirely sure it would work considering there was nothing in the books I read about them that said, or even hinted, that foreigners could be named Khal of the Khalasar. And if that so didn't work, I would have to go down to sea, kill everyone in the Khalasar. It would take us roughly 4 days before we even arrived close to the small Khalasar that was if we didn't stop, and while I was eager to see if I could use the Dothraki for my conquest, I was not going to make my men suffer for it, so we would rest after a day or two. I knew I could win from what my ravens had found out. They had about 1,000 able soldiers or riders. 3 days later, the terrain was beautiful yet unforgiving, both majestic and terrifying. The plains were covered in gold-colored grass with animals roaming free, both predators and prey. So far, it has been 3 days since we left Pentos, and so far we haven't found any type of problems in our path, besides the scorching sun and the harsh climate. But all our effort was about to pay off because we are finally close to the Khalasar I had targeted. My ravens had informed me that the Khalasar had set up a camp a few miles away from us, which meant it was time to prepare for what it was to come. The first thing I did was to instruct some of my men to set up camp and protect Daenerys. Should things go wild, not that they were, but it's always good to have a backup plan just in case. While they did that, I discussed with my general and lieutenant in the war tent how to proceed. I wanted their inputs, because who knows, they might have a good idea. One of my lieutenants had the idea to simply go and talk to them with basically what I call a white flag. But Dothraki didn't have white flag culture, which meant approaching them with non-hostile intentions was not only stupid and suicidal if I were to go alone, but it would also end with me fighting the Horde alone, which didn't appeal to me at all. From what I read, they even attacked other Khalasars, showing no mercy whatsoever. So if they did that with their own people, which they shared culture and blood, it would be pretty safe to assume they will try to destroy me as soon as they notice my presence. My general had the great idea of just show them my strength as I did with them, but I wanted to keep the casualties to a minimum, so I discarded that idea for now. But in the end, regardless of the how, I still had to approach them some way. For any of my plans to work, I needed to be relatively close to their horses for my power to work. It also didn't help that none of my men knew about my powers, something I pretended to keep in the shadows until I had the Iron Throne, or, at the very least, all SOs is my hands. So with them making suggestions without having useful knowledge about how I could approach the situation, technically made our discussion mostly useless. After a couple of hours discussing mostly about useless ideas while the camp was being set, I finally decided what to do. While not what I originally wanted, I would have to face them head on, and once I was within striking distance, I would focus on recruiting their horse to my cause. This plan, of course, meant I would have to kill some of them. But there wasn't any other way, at least I was aware of. Well, that's it for today. Tomorrow we march, I said as I left the tent to see what my wife was doing. I entered my tent, finding Daenerys having a one-sided conversation with the ravens that took to their heart brooding the eggs. You guys know these aren't raven eggs, Daenerys giggled. How dare you? They will be more raven than you will ever be. Caw? One raven cawed angrily, feeling insulted. Cause she is lucky that she mates with the Cornbringer, or else she could get the caw. Another raven added, ha ha. I laughed seeing the interaction. What made this even funnier was that Daenerys didn't understand shit what they were saying, which made this a joke only I would understand. What's so funny? Daenerys inquired with an amused expression. Well, for one, the raven brooding the eggs are dissing you. Well, of course you have no idea, but thanks to my powers I can understand them. Nothing, I said, failing to contain my laughter completely. It was me talking with the ravens, wasn't it? Daenerys pouted adorably. It's part of it, I nodded, kissing her. So any updates, my king? Daenerys inquired. Well, if you wish to know, my queen, I started to explain in detail what we were going to do tomorrow, little by little, each detail, before we both fell asleep. I woke up the next morning earlier than usual. I was to get ready for the upcoming fight. My scouts, aka my ravens, had told me that the Khalasar knew of our presence, so I had to prepare. Fast. I wasn't nervous. Not much, anyway. I had fought worse battles so far, but for some reason, having someone to go back to, someone I think I might end up falling like an idiot in love with, if I haven't already, made my heart beat with doubts. Maybe this is why Cersei said love was a weakness. I kissed Daenerys with a long, passionate kiss before I rode off with my men. This was my first battle for the Iron Throne. It didn't take us long to find the Khalasar. They were a few miles away, but I could see the Khalasar getting closer and closer. Their battle screams thundering the empty plains. Well, remember my words, men, I shouted as I charged, hearing my man shout my house ancestral words. Here we stand. The battle began soon after my battle cry, with me galloping quickly through the enemy lines, cutting down as many Dothraki as I could before they could react, using my shield to block the arrows coming at me. This was hard because I had to focus on two things. One, fighting, which was easy by now, and two, making a connection with the horses around me, and connecting with animals while doing something else was difficult. The difficult part was that I had to focus and I had to do it. That wasn't exalts easy while I hacked and chopped through the Dothraki lines, but I had to make a connection with their horses, and one by one I started to succeed in doing so, just to find something troubling in my plan, something I haven't considered before. And to be honest, I should have had, because so far, every animal I had bonded with, I'd done it in a controlled environment. I never tried to control an animal in a panic state. While in battle, and while these horses were indeed hearing my voice, they were in a state where they couldn't understand my commands, and by the moment my commands managed to reach them out, it would be already too late. So in the end, there was no other choice. I would have to kill the Khalai and force the remaining warriors in the Khalasar to submission. Locating the Ka was easier than I thought and expected, because in their culture, The Ka looks for the leader, in this case me, and tries to kill him to prove his superiority and strength to others. He would do the exact same thing with other Kas. And like a do-bill, he appeared, the cow of this small Khalasar, riding valiantly towards me in the heat of battle. Not wanting to let the poor Khal wait, I dashed forward charging at him, while cutting several riders as they got on my way, until we were a few feet apart, and like a thunder our swords clashed together. He tried to cut me, but I smiled as I jumped in the air, decapitating his horse in a single swing. "Submit or die," I said in Dothraki. "We ride for battle, we die in it." The Khal spat as he rushed towards me with his curved blade. With a sigh, I blocked his first blow with my shield, and dodged the second by taking a step to the side. I continued to dodge as I felt very well how the battle would end. I could see it clear as the day. He was going to die. It was time to end this fight, as the cow brought down his curved blade. I took a step forward, bashing his arm down with my shield with enough force to break his arm before he could regain his composure. I took another step forward, cutting his head. As his head fell into the ground with a heavy thud, bouncing like a rock, the screams of anger of the Khal blood riders shook the very ground. They were ready to die, as it was their duty as the blood brothers of the Khal to try and avenge him. The two blood guards or blood brothers rushed to me, swinging their blades wildly. I simply decided to dodge the first set of attacks, before delivering a cut on their stomach with a single swing. The cut was deep enough to make part of their organs spill out, covering the grass with the red scarlet color of war. "Submit or die," I shouted in Dothraki. With Almighty, the Khalasar stopped cold for a moment. The previously violent Khalasars stood quiet for a second before they dropped their blades. They might be savages, but they can recognize total and absolute defeat. With the heat of battle finally dying out, and the horses calming down, I would be able to finally try my original plan. I waited for a second as I made sure to connect with all the horses around. "Join me, and I will join all the Khalasar under me. The stallion that will mount the world." Mentally, I could only send really basic commands like one-word commands. That's something I learned a long time ago. But lucky for me, all I needed was one word. Kneel. The horses one by one started to kneel, doing it the best they could. Murmurs could be heard among the Dothraki warriors. "Who wants to join my herd? So we might ride the world together," I shouted in Dothraki once again, and soon the Dothraki followed their horses' example as they chanted in approval. I had lost some men and some Dothraki along the way, but I had confirmed that it was possible to absorb these warriors into my ranks. After the battle, I organized a meeting with the Dothraki general. The bigger the Khalasar, the more generals the Khalasars. This Khalasar only had one, but one was all I needed. I had, after all, some questions to ask him about their culture, especially if they had any holidays where they would reunite in their city. If I had all the Khals in one place, without war and blood, I would be able to connect to their horses and possibly absorb all their forces. Unfortunately, the general said they don't have holidays, and there had never been all the Khalasars in the city, but that the city is ready should that come to happen. He did share valuable information that the books about them didn't have, apart from the obvious that the Dothraki follow the strong, but to be considered strong, you need to kill the Khals ruling the Khalasar. Only then the Khalasar would accept you. Something I already knew, but then he started sharing things I didn't know, that while they didn't care what race was their leader, as long he was strong, they did care about their Khal representing their culture to a degree. For example, they thought because of my armor and horses that I was going to sell them as slaves should I win, he said. That if I had at least painted my horses, they would have surrendered after their Khal died without waiting for my shout. But because I didn't show any inclination towards their culture or ways, they just assume I was there to hunt them or slave them. So with that in mind, I had one thing to do, paint my horses. That, of course, was a null point now that I had Dothraki riders, which would very well represent their culture while fighting. Go and keep the Dothraki in line. No killing or raping. I ordered in Dothraki as I left to see the injured. "Yes, Khal Ronard." The general left without questioning my authority or even hesitating. He didn't seem to care that I killed hundreds of them today. We had lost 200 men, while the Dothraki had lost almost 350. The battle was fast and swift, but ultimately had great losses. And yet he was nothing but obedient. Their culture is so confusing yet beneficial for me. Shaking the thoughts off my head, as I walked into the medical area, my eyes were immediately drawn to my father on a bed with a deep cut on his chest. I couldn't help but chuckle dryly because, like Daenerys said, he was paying his betrayal in blood. He rode with me into battle without me even knowing, and almost died. Ignoring him for a second, I started to see how many men we had in the medical camp, and by eye I could count around 200 men, counting the recently added Dothraki. We will need a week before the majority of these men are able to move again. One of the doctors I had hired in Pentos said, "Very well," I nodded. "I'll give you 10 days, but if you need more, let me know." Now it was time to see how my wife was doing, and then take a long bath. "Did you get hurt?" Daenerys asked as she entered the medical area with a worried look. "No, I was just checking those that did," I answered, disarming the situation. "I'm glad." Daenerys ran towards me, giving me a tight hug once she was standing close to me. "I thought for a moment you would leave me." "I can't be killed. You got one unkillable husband," I soothed her worried mind. Later that night, after taking a long bath with Daenerys and messing around with her for a bit, I dozed off into the realm of slumber. I had of course worked out quite a bit today with the battle and the sex, so I needed to rest. But as soon as I closed my eyes, it was as if I opened them inside the nightmare I had some time ago. Again, snow everywhere, covering every inch in the area, the blizzard freezing my very core. "This is odd. Last time I didn't feel this cold," I muttered as I tried to see what this vision wanted to show me. "You said you can't be killed. Care to prove that?" A voice colder than the winter itself, and as unforgiving as hell, said behind me, sending an involuntary shiver down my spine as I spun around like a startled cat. This time the man wasn't mounting the dragon, and he was closer to me on a horse. He was still smiling, taunting me. I wanted to see who he was, but the howling blizzard made it impossible to see anything else but the massive dragon behind him. "I can't wait to extinguish the life out of you." This vision was out of place. What was going on? Perhaps I should just ignore it until my body decides to wake up. For now, but my train of thought is stopped short because the blurred, smiling figure started to approach me. Not really knowing if I could fight a vision, I ran to the house that is always here in my visions, while taking the opportunity to see if I could recognize the new White Walker. But it doesn't matter how much the undead atrocity approaches me. I can't see anything but his silhouette and smile slowly moving towards me. Once inside the house, I tried to pull my sword, getting ready to fight should the undead beast enter the house. For this might be a dream, but I wasn't going to go down even in the dream realm without a fight. But before I can even grasp my blade, a nightmarish creature is rising on its haunches, stops me holding my arms tight with a bind of shadows. I get a glimpse of the creature that seemed to be made out entirely out of shadows with a bizarre collection of sharp claws and teeth. The creature pressed his clawed, shadowy hands down on my shoulder, piercing my skin down to the bone. "Caught you?" a voice thundered inside my skull, seeming to come from everywhere around me. The voice being exactly the same I heard a few seconds ago. I tried to make a run for it, but I held tight in place by the shadow. "Champion of Light," the shadow demon chuckled in amusement. "Oh, what fun we shall have." Glazing back, I can see that the shadow creature bends down ponderously. By what I can see, it must be at least twice my height, and with enough strength to hold me down. I also had to consider this was a dream, and I might not have my powers here. Eventually, I feel the demon's breath on my neck, as his other hand snakes its way down my back, drawing blood, as he pushes with the claw on my shoulder, my entire body down. Slowly but surely, I find myself being pushed closer and closer to the ground. Tired of this one-sided domination conquest, I dropped fast on the ground, taking his claw out of my shoulder, as I rolled out of his grasp. "Can you beat my champion? I wonder who will win, light or darkness? Good or evil, life or death?" The shadow demon chuckled in amusement as he continued to grow in size, non-stop swallowing the world around him. As he faded into the nothingness, "I can wait to tear you apart. Over and over and over again. So don't disappoint me." Fear, yes. This was the first time I actually felt fear since I got here. It's been so long since I got this chilling sensation running through my body. The last time I felt this was when I was dying in this life. I never had a real challenge. I knew I could beat anyone that tried to kill me. After all, I got powers when I reincarnated, but this thing made me feel powerless. This thing made me feel human once again. I woke up to quiet and warmth. Groaning, I blinked away the lingering haze of sleep. As I groggily sit up on the bed, stretching my sore body, my tent is open, revealing a sunny day, noon. By the looks of it, a glance around reveals that I'm indeed back in my room that somehow had been converted into something alike to the medical area at my camp. Taking off the covers, I see that I was half naked in my bed with my shoulder and torso being covered in bandages. A realization hits me. The demon managed to hurt me through the visions, There was no other explanation. I could feel my shoulders somewhat numb, same with my torso. With a sigh, I get up and find my clothes, folded neatly on a night table that, if I had to guess, was my wife doing. It doesn't take me long to dress up. I can hear my men talking, murmuring probably about me, but I can't really tell. I make my way down the camp as my men stare at me with disbelief. Whatever they were told was serious. Perhaps some thought I was going to die. Deciding I really don't care about what they are thinking right now, I continue to focus my ears on finding my wife. Corndrinker, you are KW awake. We never doubted you. A raven flew towards me, practically tackling me, giving the equivalent of a hug for a raven. I'm not going down that easy, buddy, I chuckled, petting the little rascal as I asked. Where's my wife? Ka, she's on the medical area, discussing with the doctors about your situation. The raven happily informed, as he flew over my head, sitting on it. I will stay here and keep you safe. I swear it. Ka, for my Ka, honor. I smiled at his antics as I walked down the medical area, ignoring the ravens and everyone. For now, all I wanted to see was my wife. I walked down my camp until the medical tents were on my sight. We can't save him. I'm sorry, my queen. I could hear the voice of what I assumed was one of the doctors. He is still breathing. You must save him. Daenerys shouted angrily. She was desperate. It would be mercy to kill him. Whatever got into his system is worse than any poison known to men. The doctor added, as I entered the tent. Good thing my wife stopped you idiots from killing me, I growled. Frankly, I was mad. I could have died if she didn't stop them. Renard, Daenerys turned around fast like lightning, running towards me while crying. Once she was close enough, she jumped into my arm, hanging tightly from my neck. I knew you would come back, she said, each word followed by a kiss. I blink in realization just how long I was out. How long was I out? Almost 2 weeks, Daenerys smiled, with tears running down her eyes. The doctors kept saying since day one that it would be a mercy to kill you, but I knew you would come back. You promised me you would never die. A promise that now sounds like a real challenge to keep, but I wasn't just ready to give up on that promise. Am I glad someone actually believed I would come back? I smiled as I glared at the speechless doctor. Not only me, but your ravens also stood outside the tent. They would get mad every time the doctors talked about your death, Daenerys chuckled. I swear, sometimes I feel they understand me. They were the only ones with me on this, my loyal feather gang or raven squad. They would get some extra corn later for their loyalty. You would be surprised how much they understand. I chuckled as I pointed to the raven in my head. She had failed to notice. Could you www? What are these humans looking at? The raven requested, turning his little head in confusion. I shrugged as I left the tent with my wife, seriously considering killing the doctors for almost killing me. It has been 1 day since I woke up almost death, injured in bed. Today I was on my tent talking with my wife. Daenerys insisted that I had to rest 1 or 2 days more before moving. So here I was, finishing off my breakfast in bed as I collected my thoughts. Though my mind is still a bit fuzzy after what it seemed it was a week of endless nightmares. I'm strong enough to start planning. The Shadow Demon mentioned a champion of darkness, and considering what I had seen in my visions, that champion was the Night King attacking people beyond the wall to the north. If this demon really chose that thing as his champion, there is no doubt it won't be easy to defeat it now. This, of course, had something to do with my reincarnation. I doubt it's a coincidence, but the point is I won't win this like I thought I would. Who knows what a demon with that kind of power could give the Night King? Maybe enough powers to match me. But the Night King seemed pretty different. Like a new person, so perhaps the champion of darkness was someone else. Who knows? But whoever it was, it would surely bring me troubles. But no matter what, I will prevail. I will overcome this and show that shadow thing that I will not bow down, no matter how utterly terrifying he might be. No matter what I decide to do, waiting around in this tent in the plains of Essos isn't getting me any closer to defeating my one true enemy, the still unknown champion of darkness. All I knew was that he had a connection to the White Walkers and that at one point he would be there to fight me. But either way, thinking about it's not going to fix the situation, so it's time to stretch my legs and venture forth. Being scared is not a reason to stop moving forward. Fear is something all humans must overcome, and right now is my turn to overcome this. Taking a deep breath, I decide to head over to War Tent, where my wife was at the moment. Discussing with the generals in my army about strategies and logistics, with a smile I take a seat across from her with a teasing smile, earning a faint smile from her as we both dismissed everyone in the room. Morning, my queen. I smiled, seeing her taking charge was kinda sexy, so I decided to give her a kiss for being so diligent. "How are you feeling, Renard?" Daenerys asked, after a moment. She then reached across, putting her hand on my forehead. No fever at least. That's better. You really had me worried earlier, you know. I chuckled as I apologized. Last night she said that if I died, she would bring me back just to scold me to death, that I have to keep my promises, especially if they were made with a dragon. Daenerys smiled at that as she sat on my lap. "Good. I'm really glad. But if you start feeling sick or feel pain, don't hesitate to come to me. I need you. We need you," she added, the last part touching her belly. I smiled at her, thanks. Processing information, analyzing data. She's pregnant. "Are you certain?" I inquired with disbelief. "I'm not entirely. But I have been late for my blood for a week now," Daenerys smiled. "It can be the stress, but it also can be that I'm with a child." A child. Not surprising at all, considering how much we share our bed. I didn't know exactly how to react. Was I supposed to be happy, sad, scared? In all honesty, all this made me feel was more determined to change this world for the best. No child of mine was going to inherit an earth full of crappy people and Resident Evil rip-offs, huh? Maybe I was excited. If it is, then I'm more than happy. I smiled, touching her flat belly carefully. But if you aren't with a child, we can always keep trying for one. I sure enjoy the process. My smile at this point had turned mischievous. "My pleasure," Daenerys purred, in agreement, leaning into a passionate kiss. "In the meantime, while we wait for confirmation, we can get to it," the doctor said. "Is safe for most of the pregnancy." "Oh?" I chuckled. She had investigated to see if we could fuck during pregnancy. Dragons are not cold-blooded at all. At least mine isn't. "You think pregnancy will stop me from mounting my bear?" "Ha! I'm a dragon. I mount the sky. Nothing will stop me," Daenerys laughed. "Besides, I need my handsome teddy bear. That's a compliment I can live with. Who am I but a bear in the clutches of a dragon? All I can do is please you," I added, getting a handful of her ass with my hand. "Let's go to our tent, my king," Daenerys smiled, eyes full of carnal lust. "I take the next couple of days to rest and occasionally fuck with my wife. Every day I feel better, and my strength is slowly returning back to me. Not that I felt weak, but comparing to my peak performance state, I felt pretty battered. In the end, all I needed was 5 days of rest, and I was good to go, feeling awesome. After my recovery, I moved all my troops to start taking off the camp. After a couple of hours, we were ready to start moving forward once again. After all that happened here, I was standing outside what our camp was, ready to keep moving with my plans. It takes a couple of minutes so that my men can confirm they are ready to depart. And once again, we find ourselves on the road. After 8 hours of travel or so, I can see evidence that a bunch of horses we nearby, the grass looks like it was crushed. My Dothraki confirmed someone was here, though the wind was uncertain. We knew someone had crossed the path we were crossing. Deciding to see where this path would lead me, I continue to follow the trails. Maybe some Dothraki ran past here, or the Second Sons. Maybe some merchant, regardless of who. I was curious to find out if they happened to be Dothraki, it would be a benefit for me. But I wasn't an idiot. While curiosity was driving me, I wasn't going to let that turn me into a brainless moron. The safest and logical path to ensure I didn't walk into my own grave was to send my ravens to scout for me. "Caw! We won't disappoint you." Ravens in formation. "Caw!" With that, raven squad flew into the horizon to see what was ahead of us. These little critters really made my life a whole lot easier. Without them, things would surely be a nightmare for me. With my ravens on the job, I decided to move slowly, making sure to not advance too much in case they came back with bad news, so as to avoid being forced into battle if I wasn't prepared. "Be honest with me, can you talk to those ravens?" Daenerys inquired with puzzlement in her purple eyes as she approached me. In a way, half-truths weren't lies, at least that's what I wanted to believe. The less she knew about my powers, the safer she would be. But a part of me wanted to tell her, what did I have to lose? She was my wife. She should be the one person in the world to know everything about me, like I should, about her. "That's not cryptic at all," Daenerys deadpanned, and to be fair, she was right. I didn't answer her question. I just went around it, like a fox dodging a bullet. I suppose I owe a better answer, but later I chuckled as I saw the ravens coming back, doing some flashy formations as they descended. They had found whatever made these trails, and by the amount of time it took them, whatever it was close. "Caw! Go, go, Raven Rangers! Go, go, Raven Rangers! Caw! We are some mighty morphin Raven Rangers. All the ravens sang in unison as they descend, every second doing even more flashy poses. Fair enough, Daenerys chuckled as she herself saw the raven flying like bullets towards us. But at this point, nothing that isn't you telling me you can speak with them will suffice as an answer. I mean, look at them. My ravens had informed me that they had found a Dothraki tribe in the vale between the windy foothills of the east and the vast, fertile fields of the north, around 10 miles away from our location. For the what they describe it, and I could gather it was a small Dothraki tribe setting camp, of perhaps 800 or 900 souls, including the non-combatants. And for what I read and had found out thanks to my newly acquired Dothraki men, small tribes don't usually last long, especially if they don't increase their numbers in battle, usually, because small tribes form after a big khalasar. Breaks up after the death of their khal, they are left vulnerable to bigger khalasars. And apparently that was what happened to the tribe I absorbed. Their khal died, and they broke up into 5 small tribes. He told me before that happened, around 4 months ago. He also told me his tribe was originally composed of around 6,000 riders. For all I knew, this new small tribe my ravens had found was probably at one point part of the same khalasar, because like my Dothraki said, it's not common for a small tribe to survive long. They usually expand or get absorbed. What are our orders? The new appointed co of my Dothraki riders asked. Prepare for battle. We are taking those bastards with us, I chuckled, as I prepared for the imminent battle ahead. If I could call such thing a battle, they were pretty small. This wouldn't take much time. And while Daenerys would be happy for me to stay behind, I couldn't, as per Dothraki culture. I had to ride with my men to battle. A khal must always lead the charge, or at least be involved in the battle in any given way. The end point being that I had to be there, to show my people I was ready to die in battle, and worthy of being followed. But, like I had expected, the fight was a massacre, many would say. I entered the fight cutting heads like I was cutting the grass. It was pretty one-sided. For one, they didn't expect us, and we completely overwhelmed them in numbers. Even my ravens killed some riders by gouging their eyes out while shouting, "Blood for the COGO." Frankly, it consumed more time to get to them than to defeat them and absorb them. The battle lasted roughly around 20 minutes before I completely subdued them. Like my last battle, they joined after I killed their khal and his blood riders. This time their assimilation was surprisingly easier. They saw that I had some Dothraki following me. And even with their limited information about me, they formulated the right answer, that I was a newly appointed khal, a foreigner, but a khal nonetheless. And while this time I didn't have to make their horses kneel to show them my power and make them believe I was their chosen one, I still did it nonetheless, just to be sure, after all. I had to ensure and ignite their fanatical and blindness loyalty if they thought I was the stallion that would mount the world. They would probably follow me to the hell and back. So far, absorbing Dothraki into my ranks has been relatively easy, of course. I had yet to find a big tribe, which I'm pretty sure will put up quite the challenge. Tribes like Drogo's khalasar, that had over 40,000 riders, for example. They would crush me on a straight fight. But unless I was forced, Drogo and his khalasar would be the last on my Dothraki shopping list. Time to go back, I sighed, seeing my men finishing taking all the resources this small tribe had collected. That, of course, everything they had was mine now. After the battle, I went straight back to my temporary camp, where I found Daenerys waiting for me back exactly where I left her, with the same worried expression on her face. She had when I left. I couldn't really blame her, to be honest. Since the day I entered into that pseudo-coma, she has been overprotective of me. Even though I had told her multiple times everything was fine, she would not believe me and let it down. I suppose it was somewhat scarring waking up to my bleeding body that night. Her overprotectiveness went so far that today she had refused to let me go and fight, saying I was still recovering. But after a while and a long talk where I assured her I would be fine and that this battle was nothing but a day in the playground for men, she relented. You shouldn't have gone into battle after what happened. Someone tried to kill you, Daenerys sighed in relief, seeing me back in one piece. Checking every inch of my body for injuries, she believed someone had entered our chambers that fateful night and tried to kill me, and that the assassin was still within our ranks, so she trusted no one. But me, and frankly, I wasn't going to correct her assumption. It's not like I could just explain to her that a metaphysical being with untold power wants to fuck with me so bad that he decided to choose a champion that will try to fuck with me on his behalf with a never-ending and ever-growing army of corpses. That was something I would explain her later. Not the evil god part, but the long night part of it. But for now, I would keep her in the dark. I'm fine, I chuckled. I told you many times I won't die on you. That much was true. If I won all this, I would probably outlive her, with the super body and all. I still worry, Daenerys pouted adorably. What am I to do if something were to happen to you? Nothing will happen to me, not by man's hands anyway, I sighed. While the war was like a loot box, and anything could happen, I was sure of something with all my being. My biggest threat wasn't here or in Westeros, it was beyond the wall, lurking in the shadows, growing stronger every second it passes. Daenerys eyed curiously before she sighed, giving me a long and passionate kiss. I love you, my reckless bear. I love you, my sweet dragon. I chuckled, realizing a second later what I had just said. Daenerys' eyes widened in surprise, that surprise slowly turning to happiness. The words every mate wants to hear, he said. Yes, some booty tonight he will get. Dance around her. Show her how big your wings are. Another raven added as she showed me how to do it. I didn't know how to react. These ravens were getting more and more strange every day, and frankly, I find that both awesome and adorable. You said it, Daenerys kissed in a quite possessive manner, as if claiming me as her own. Wow, you had a lot going on with that kiss, I chuckled. It's because I finally know you are mine, Daenerys giggled, kissing me one more time. Your heart and body belongs to me, my bear, like my body and heart belong to you. Oh, what a terrible destiny awaits for me, I chuckled, kissing her back while giving her a playful spank on her ass. After a passionate night with my wife, I took a moment to rearrange my plans. Conquering the Dothraki at this pace would take me a year, and the sooner I had them under my wing, the better. So I would have to risk a bit to win a lot. Betting usually works that way. The more you bet, the more you can possibly get. While I knew I wasn't ready to face Drogo and his absurdly big Khalasar, it was more than obvious that I had to start targeting bigger prey. There were a few Khaleesars with over 10,000 riders. If I collected a few, my mission would become considerably easier, and while the numbers wouldn't be in my favor, I still had a chance. All I had to do was win one battle against a big Khaleesar, and everything would go just fine. So, with that in mind, I ordered my ravens to fly around Essos and locate as many Khalasars as they could with at least over 3,000 riders. Doubts and fear within you, I feel, Yaxid. Halting your path the dark side of the corn is, Rodia said as he flew into my tent. Well, surprisingly, you are right, I chuckled, petting the raven who ruffled his feathers in approval and delight. But don't worry, buddy, I will overcome this. And by you stand, we will, Yaris, Rosier added, puffing his fat feathery chest with pride and wisdom. I know, ha, I chuckled. The next morning I woke up to a gang of ravens jumping on the bed around me and my wife. They were chanting something. We found some big Khalasars. We deserve some petting. Don't forget corn. We deserve corn. My ravens came back in morning happy and ecstatic with their discoveries. They had found all the prominent Dothraki tribes scattered around Essos, the smallest of them having over 10,000 riders. It's time to go big if I continued at this pace. Essos would be mine in a decade. I had to speed things up, risking more to win more. While it's true I only had over 6,000 men that didn't count my animals, I had over 3,000 horses that, unlike the Dothraki ones, would fight, and my ravens, so in the end, the battle was more than fair, if I took that into account. I will leave in about 2 hours, I told Daenerys as I put on my clothes. Let me guess, the ravens found something, Daenerys eyed me for a second. You can communicate with them, right? I sighed. She was right, and honestly, I'm surprised that nobody hasn't figured it out. Not only ravens, any animal, they can talk to me, and I can talk to them. I can see why you didn't tell me before, Daenerys said deep in thought. If I had to take a guess, I would say they are your information network. So, if people were to know about this, you would be left in the unknown. Am I correct? I eyed her for a second before I started to chuckle. Yes, that is very much why I've been avoiding people knowing about it. Her deduction was on point. Maybe I should start calling her Sherlock. Your secret is safe with me, my bear, Daenerys smiled. Not at all offended I didn't tell her this earlier. Any other secrets you might want to share? Well, I can use any weapon in the world and have a super body. I laughed. I knew she would take this as a joke, but sadly for her, it was the truth. So in the future, when this inevitably came up, I would use this moment as a reminder that I told her. Well, I already know my bear is the best warrior, and he does indeed have a great body, so those are not secrets, Daenerys laughed, kissing me on the lips softly. Be safe out there, I need you. I will, I nodded as I left the room. It was time to conquer. I left once again Daenerys with 500 men and some ravens to protect her. I also ordered her horse to basically be her bodyguard. It would take me 2 days to get to the Dothraki tribe I was targeting, but after winning against them, I would finally have the strength to fight the rest. I just had to win this battle, and everything would fall into place. All I had to do was exactly the same I had done so far. Win! After 2 long days of travel and 1 to recover, I was mere miles away from the battle, and like me, the Dothraki knew I was approaching and were already riding towards me. This didn't come as a surprise, for my ravens had told me in advance, but it hardly mattered. It was time to fight, so shouting a battle cry, I rode into battle with my men following close behind, and my ravens flying above me. For the corn... My ravens shouted in a powerful caw as they charged into battle from the blue skies. For the Apollos, the horses shouted in a mighty battle cry as they galloped to destroy my enemies. As we approached their troops, I ordered my ravens to attack the Dothraki first. Taking in consideration their flying advantage, it would undoubtedly disorient them with their orders read. My ravens took the mission to their heats, and soon I saw the feathered warriors made their way towards the fierce nomads with a battle caw, trying to push them off their horses. The riders tried to slash them away, trying to kill my ravens, failing for the most part, as it was hard to cut something so small while moving. Taking their struggle to fend off my feathery friends as an opportunity, I commanded my cavalry to attack the Dothraki with all our might, with loyal horses trampling as many Dothraki as they could with their strong and powerful hooves. Some of my Dothraki riders were shouting in happiness, saying that I had blessed them with the honor to fight with their horses like this, fighting like brothers, they said. After that, the battle continued for an hour or with me. Every now and then commanding my archers to shoot down their men, I would see many riders and horses fall wounded or dead to the ground to the arrows they were receiving. I was during this trying to find the Khal, but in the end, it was the Khal that found me, he rode towards with a happy expression. I saw him covered in the blood of my comrades, galloping proudly on his horse, with his curved sword in his right hand, and the head of one of my men of his left. I am Khal Moro, I will take what is yours and make it mine, Khal Moro said with a smug expression, throwing me the head of my casing. I am Khal Renard, and, unlike you, I will take what's rightfully mine because all of you belong to me. I said with a faint smile, as I added a taunt. Come, little filly, I will end you. The Khal growled in response as he jumped off his horse, swinging his curved sword against my head, but I moved aside just enough so that the sword just passes me by. Try again, I chuckled, making him glow red anger. With a smile in my face, I continued to dodge his attacks with little to no effort, and this was obviously getting to his nerves as he was growing angrier and angrier as he continued to miss his swings at me. You won't win, little filly, because you are already dead, with that quote said that always wanted to use. I leaped forward as I vertically spun my blade around, releasing a flowing attack in a circular motion with enough strength and momentum to separate the Khal from his lower half. I stood behind the now dead Kala as I shouted, Join my Kalazar, or die. It didn't take long for the remaining Dothraki to lower their weapons. I am Khal Renard. You will obey or die, is that clear? I shouted once again. The Dothraki followed strength, and for now I was the strongest one. After taking control over Morz Khalsar, I marched back to Daenerys. I wanted to see her after all. I was happy. I had won this battle, officially taking the first big step towards my conquest. I had obtained 9,000 riders and able warriors, and in total I even had some blood riders now that called me blood of my blood. A curious thing about the Dothraki, blood riders fulfill the roles of guards, brothers, shadows, and apparently friends to the call they follow in ways that run way deeper than the oaths of the Kingsguard to the king on Westeros. The call in this case, me and his blood riders commonly refer to each other as blood of my blood. Should I die, they would do everything in their power to avenge me and would not stop until the one who killed me dies or they themselves die. 4 Colossus more, and I would be able to take on Drogo. My plans were going smoothly, with the next step after taking the Dothraki being conquering the free cities. As we rode, my guard, aka Blood Rider, approached and said, My call, we need to ride to Vaz Dothrak. The Dosh Khaleen have to bless your journey as a new big Khalas. In Dothraki culture, many might take the title of a Khal and might even have a Khalasar following him. But only those with the approval of the Dosh Khaleen can genuinely be considered Khals. Of course, their blessing doesn't come that easily. For a Khal to be regarded as a real Khal, he has to have at least a Khalasar of 5,000 Dothraki riders with him. Which is why my new blood rider is telling me to go to Vax Dothraki. After all, I was now leading over 10,000 Dothraki. By Dothraki law, I was a fully fledged Khal now. All I needed was make it technically official was the blessing of the widows. We will, but we are going for my wife first, I nodded, while I originally wanted to see the Dothraki city. My first priority was to have my wife back with me. After that, I would go to Horsetown. After going back to the camp where I had left Daenerys, I took my wife with me and departed with my Khalasar to Vax Dothraki. From what my Khalasar had told me, the city was a fortnight away, located in the northeast of the vast Dothraki Sea, beneath the Mother of Mountains, from what I could gather from the books and my Khalasar. Vax Dothraki had no walls, which made for a pretty lousy defense against aggressors, if you ask me. But then again, who would be so stupid to attack them? The sacred city was also primarily ruled and inhabited by slaves and the Dosh Khaleen, the wives of all the Khals who have come before, aka dying. Within the sacred city, it is forbidden to wear a blade or shed a free man's blood. In short, our trip would be long and quite dull. That was if we didn't find a Khalasar or someone on our way there. So I will become a Khaleesi, Daenerys inquired, approaching with a smile on her face. She somehow found that amusing. It means queen in their language. You should know that. I chuckled. Oh, I know, but I am a queen already, Daenerys giggled. Aye, but with this, you will multiply your queen powers, I chuckled. I suppose that makes the trip worth it. Daenerys smiled as we continued our trip. 1 month later, our trip to Vax Dothraki was uneventful. The only thing that was out of the ordinary was the amount of time that took us to get here. They said 2 weeks. 2 weeks, my ass. Besides that, everything was fine. We didn't find any Khalasars in our path to the sacred city, nor we found slavers or any other threat I would have to subdue to continue. Part of me was happy the trip was so dull, but another part of me wanted to make this trip even more worth it. But now it was too late. I was in front of the incredibly breathtaking gates of the city, also known as the Horse Gate of Vax Dothraki. For what I had read, this was the most impressive part of the sacred city, and so far I couldn't agree more. It was marveling to see those 2 gigantic bronze stallions whose hooves were meeting 100 feet above the ground, forming a pointed arch that gave the feeling you were entering Valhalla itself. Truly impressive, I muttered as I passed with my horse. It is. The books don't honor its glory, Daenerys agreed with me. For the Dothraki, this was nothing to be impressed, and the Ironborn didn't care much for it. On the other hand, my horses were having a moment, a fangirl moment. After 5 long minutes of admiring the gate, we found ourselves approaching the city, and the feeling of wonder died immediately. How the fuck can some make such an epic gate to enter the city, but stops there? The so-called sacred city was nothing but an over-glorified camp with slaves. The more we approached the city, the less impressed I got. Seriously, I expected something more. City-like. Well, they stopped being awesome at the gate, I muttered, making Daenerys giggle in agreement. After we arrived and settled, I was taken to meet the widows so that they would name me a Khal, a mere formality, but an important one for them. You are the foreigner, a widow said, eyeing me carefully. In a way I am, I nodded. Yet you have become a Khalza. Mere Khalza speaks a great deal of your strength. Another widow added, Oh, yet to taste defeat, so they are right, I chuckled. We have seen your connection with the horses. You are a Dothraki in everything, but birth, the leader of the Crones said with wonderment in her eyes, We take anything and make it ours. So by our laws, I don't see why you shouldn't wear the title you so well deserve. Thanks, your approval means nothing to me. That's what I wanted to say, but I knew how to pick my fights. I thank you for your wisdom, I smiled. Have you taken more than one wife? A widow asked. No, I only have one, Mycadously. My wife is Daenerys Mormont. I informed them, Very well, Khal, you have our blessing. The leader of the Crones said, as she added, We want to meet your Khal. Please send her over to us later. Sure, I nodded as I took my leave, and just like that, I was a Khal but with license. That night, after Daenerys had her talk with the Crones, she told me they had confirmed her pregnancy. My answer to if I would be happy with the kid was answered. That same moment, I was happy beyond comprehension. I couldn't believe I was going to be a father. The thought of it really made me smile. As I was high on happiness, the Crones called me, Daenerys, and my Khalasar to a ritual. They had confirmed she was pregnant, and now they wanted to read our omens. Once we were all where the Crones had asked us to go, they gave Daenerys a horse heart and instructed her to eat it. I told her she didn't have to do it. I didn't care for the bad omens and stuff, but Daenerys wanted to do it anyway. With a smile, I walked down to my seat as I saw how my wife devour a raw heart while disgusting and puke-provoking. I was too happy to really focus on the fact that she was eating an appalling heart. All of a sudden, my Kalasar started to chant something that brought me back memories. Haklizif Kub. Haizif Kub. Hizaisif Kub. This was the vision I had a few months ago. I reliving the same event again, but in real life. Now I understood why I was happy, even covered in blood. Her beauty shines like a diamond. Maybe this is what people call the shine of pregnancy. She certainly looks better now that I know she is pregnant. Vejfin Sajar Risheserasaj. Fizifin Sajar Risheseris. That chant was new, and while my Dothraki was quite fluent at this point, I had to focus to translate what they were saying. After hearing the chant a couple of times, I couldn't help but smile. They were calling my unborn son the stallion who mounts the world. While I thought that title would be given to me, I didn't mind. Like his father, he was already showing everyone who was the fucking boss. So with a huge smile on my face, I started to chant with them. That same night I talked with my wife. She told me how the crones told her she would have twins. My mind started to race. Would they look like her or like me? I smiled as we continued to talk, eventually falling asleep. After receiving the great news that my wife was pregnant and the prophecy that my kids would bring the world together, I decided to take a week to celebrate with my wife in Vax Dothrak. I was spoiling her rotten with everything her heart craved and desired. I was happy, but deep down I was scared. I had made an enemy I wasn't sure how to beat yet. A fucking demon, probably a god. But also, I now had a reason even bigger than myself to find a way to win this battle of light and darkness. I think we will have 2 boys, Daenerys said, smiling, resting her beautiful head on my chest as I brushed her hair with my fingers. I think we will have a boy and a girl. I smiled as I yawned. It was pretty late, and with all the celebration I had been doing, I didn't get much rest, but I'll be happy either way. A boy and a girl. That sounds nice too. Daenerys yawned back, getting closer to me to be spooned. It does, I smiled as we continued to talk for hours about how we pictured our kids would look like with her exquisite Valyrian features and my North Standard ones mixed in the baby oven. I couldn't help but wonder, how would they look like? Would they look like me? Like her? A mix of both? I was frankly excited to see them already. Eventually, at some point in the conversation, we fall asleep, happy. Once again, I found myself in this wretched dream world. Just when I thought I was out of this shithole, here I am, standing on an even colder weather, freezing my ass off. I will inject caffeine into my veins after I wake up, I swear it, I muttered, as I started to walk around. At one point, something would have to happen, and I would wake up. I only hope this time the demon didn't force me into another 2-week coma. Eventually, after what I feel it was hours of walking through the blizzard, I found the house that I used to hide during my last visit to this dream world. I am not quite sure what draws me back here, considering the house was the place I met Freddy Krueger on steroids. But once again, I find myself inside the house. So far I hadn't seen nor the demon nor his White Walkers, so perhaps this would be a good vision. As if I bet the moment I lower my guard some paranormal shit will happen, I chuckled dryly as I explored the house. After all, last time I didn't have any time to do it. It doesn't take me long to find that the house has an attic, so, with a deep breath, I found myself climbing the rickety ladder, leading probably to something that would scar me or some shit. With a strong pull, I tear the door to the attic off. An alarmed but yet pretty familiar caw and a flutter of wings inform me of the presence of a raven inside the attic. Well, this is new? The raven flew close to me, eyeing me with wonder. Are you secretly a demon, waiting to scare the crap out of me? I asked with a chuckle. No, but I can be pretty scary, the raven huffed as if I had insulted him. Oh, I bet, I chuckle. You can understand me, well, this is certainly new, the raven said, tilting his head, puzzlement on his little black eyes. Why are you here? No, for pleasure, that's for sure, I sighed. But I keep coming back, over and over and over again. Then you probably still have something to see. The raven flew to my shoulder as he hummed. I wonder what... We don't get many visitors here, even those so-called green seers stay away from these parts. I can wonder why, I retorted sarcastically. It was more than obvious no one, in their right fucking mind, would come to this place. Well then, keep going, you have to follow your guts, that's how things work around here. The raven chuckled as he pointed me with his little wing to continue on my mission. I will stay by your side, I have this weird feeling you are someone I have to love. Weird, huh? Suppressing the need to laugh at that, I started to survey the attic. taking a good look around, and what I see doesn't shout destiny or something like that. The attic was full of furniture and broken glasses that cluttered the small attic. Nothing unusual so far, but as the Raven said, I had to follow my gut, and so I did. Eventually a ray of light, a single beam of light that sneaked its way down from a crack in the roof. It felt warm, welcoming like the evening sun of summer, which considering how fucking cold it was outside, was no possible. Perhaps this was it. So with that in mind, I took a deep breath, taking in as I approached the light that for some reason I couldn't reach. It was as if it was moving out of my reach the more I walked, or perhaps it was guiding me somewhere. This theory proved to be right when the light stopped moving, illuminating in the circle, a footprint that reminded why I was afraid to come here in the first place. Recognizing those claw marks, I immediately felt an involuntary shiver runs down my spine, the memories of that dream resurfacing as I gulped. This is the demon you talked about earlier, right? The Raven that I had quite honestly forgotten was on my shoulder inquired. Yes, it is, I nodded as I slowly regained myself back together. I had 2 new reasons to be brave and victorious. So deciding not to go back down, I start peering around nervously as I continued to follow the footprints. Eventually, I began to catch glimpses of something glowing with a faint dimming light, and like every horror movie was in the direction the footprints were leading me. I missed the days my dreams involved naked ladies or food. I sighed as I followed the footprints. Heart thumping, I carefully make my way to the glowing item, finding that it was a simple mirror. There was nothing special about the mirror, except maybe that it was taller than me. Still, besides that, it was a pretty common mirror. The mirror itself was standing propped up against the wall, with faint glow muffled by the rags covering it. I bet you a fucking ton of corn that then moment I move those rags some paranormal shit will happen. I chuckled, eyeing the Raven on my shoulder. The mirror, it's glowing red. Even I know that's a red flag. I can tell something wrong, it's about to happen, but it's your destiny. A pretty fucked one, but yours nonetheless. The Raven said, denying my bet, and stating the obvious. Hooray for fucking destinies! I muttered, taking a deep breath, wanting this to be over. I removed the rags covering the mirror for a moment. Nothing happened, and I was genuinely starting to believe I was safe. But I invoked Murphy's Law with my thinking, and shit went down. He came back. The voice of the demon thundered inside my skull. Not really caring to hear him, I pulled out my sword and tried to smash the mirror, but once again, I was stopped by the shadows. But unlike last time where I had enough freedom to move, I was completely immobilized. Stop this, the Raven said, trying to defend me, just to be pushed like a rag doll across the room. Not that you will send me your champions to fight, inquired. Maybe I will just end you here. The demon cackled in amusement as he tightened his grip on me. I didn't want to die again, my wife, my unborn kids. I couldn't allow this shit to happen, so with all my might, I started to push the demon back to no avail. My desperate tries to survive only made him chuckle in delight. Ronard, it's okay. Silence now. Stop struggling. This will be over quickly. Don't be afraid. Don't think of what you left behind. Just enjoy this beautiful moment. It is so much more vibrant than the darkness that awaits you. I will give you this moment to cherish this. That is my gift to you. Existence is behind you now. Enjoy the everlasting silence that comes after. The demon said as he started to increase the amount of strength he was using. I can die like this. My mind was racing, trying to find a way to overcome this shitty dream. I had to survive, now more than ever. If I am to be your fucking champion, God of Light, do something. Very well, I will. A voice warm and comforting resonated in my mind, telling me that somehow everything would be okay. Die. Just as the demon was about to end, my life flames that came out of nowhere engulfed my body, pushing the demon out, burning him, turning his shadowy form slowly into ashes. So you decided to intervene. How unlike you. Very well. Took you long enough, I breathed out as I felt the fire that by all means should be burning me, healing me. You had to accept you were my champion, you had to need me for me to come. The fire moved as the voice talked. You have accepted your duty, so don't worry. I will make sure the darkness doesn't target you ever again in this realm. I know you know your mission, but I have to let you know, darkness doesn't play fair. He will cheat and do whatever it takes to kill you through his champion, so that he can consume the world, so while he won't attack you, here again, he is still a threat. You don't say, the God of Light. More like the god of obvious shit, of course. The dark side would play dirty. It was on their fucking description. I put the destiny of this world on your hands. The fire moved, as the voice added. Good luck, champion of light, son of the fire. As the fire started to burn the world around me, I turned my eyes to the raven that had tried to save me, to find him waving at me with his wing happily. Champion of light, son of the fire. I was starting to collect titles. Son of the fire, champion of the light, the sound good and all, but in reality they really meant was that I had more responsibilities, but I suppose it had its benefits. At the very least, this time, the fucking god that chose me to be his champion, without even consulting me, might I add, helped me, he said. The darkness would not target me again. How is he going to keep that promise? I really don't care. For me, it was a win-win situation. He keeps the shadows away. I focus on stopping the long night. We all win. I really need a break. I sighed as I stood out my bed, Daenerys still sleeping soundly. All right, back into track. Conquering the Dothraki. With a soft smile forming on my face, seeing my beautiful pregnant wife sleep, I left the tent to start preparing my men to leave. As I left the tent, I noticed that the city had more people than it had yesterday, and by the looks of it was another call that had arrived while I was sleeping. Well, this is interesting, I muttered. Whoever this cow was could be my next target. That, of course, depending on the numbers. His Khalasar had, if they outnumbered me by a lot, I would have waited. All I had to do was put a raven to follow him and wait until they leave the city. With that in mind, I walked around trying the city, trying to find the call. I was curious as to who I would find. Maybe it was Drogo, in which case, I could instead of hunting him outside, in a later day, I could just simply challenge him to a one-on-one duel. He was proud, too proud for his own good, and would accept in a beat. I walked around the market with a simple mission to find the Khal. As I entered deeper into the market, I saw the Dothraki trading and exchanging things. This was the one place they found their stuff without killing each other. Their numbers were massive. Just in the market I could see hundreds and hundreds of them mixing together in the background like ants. The more and more I walked, the clearer the truth became. I was sure that this army belonged to Drogo, or at the very least to another big Khal. Hours passed by until I found one of the blood riders of this Khalasar. I followed him back to his Khalasar. I was getting tired of looking by myself, and I had promised my ravens a day off to celebrate. I was increasing the flock with 2 babies. They were happy, and decided to discuss things like diaper duty and stuff. Yes, my ravens wanted to change diapers and teach my kids how to fly. I would have to explain to them later that they won't be able to fly. So today I was on my own, which made this scouting mission extra difficult. Until today I didn't realize how dependent I was of them. Finding one Dothraki in this sea full of them was the equivalent of trying to find a Waldo while being blind. I want to speak with your call. I approached the Blood Rider. There wasn't much he could do besides saying no. Why? He asked, a bit surprised. I knew how to speak his language fluently. I have something to offer him, I informed the man, being as cryptic as possible. The man in turn eyed me with suspicion for a second before he nodded and with a hand sign told me to follow him. It took the Blood Rider roughly 15 minutes to lead me to the tent where his Khal was resting. He probably thought I wanted to offer the Khal some sort of deal, maybe for the slaves he brought, or something similar to that. Later he would probably blame himself later for the death of his precious Khal. Wait here, the Blood Rider informed me as he entered the tent, probably to explain the Khal the situation before he presented me. As I waited for the Kadu to ask me in, my mind started to drift off to what happened in my dream. Those titles I was given, I kinda felt they meant something. Besides an absurd amount of responsibility, but what? Khal Drogo will see you, the Blood Rider said, confirming my original suspicions. Khal Drogo was here. No wonder the city felt so full of life in a bizarre way. Very well, I nodded as I entered the tent. The tent was moderately big, covered in furs and many other items, from food to alcohol. Drogo was sitting on the floor, drinking, not really giving me much importance. He didn't even have the decency to look at me. You are very foolish, are you not? Everyone in the tent went stiff. I just had insulted their Khal in their own city. For them, I was a foreigner. You are the foolish, Drogo stood, probably cursing that he couldn't cut my head within the sacred city. My name is Khal Ronard, I announced, to getting a few surprised looks in the crowd inside his tent. I want to fight you one-on-one, outside the sacred city. If I win, I will take everything from you. And in the impossible case you win, I paused for a second before laughing. Sorry, but my mind can't process such a stupid idea. Me losing to you, really stupid. A duel, one-on-one. Drogo approached me, enough for me to see he was taller than me by a few inches. Sure, I will gladly take your head out and take down your neck for this insult, and after that I will take your army with me. What an idiot! But being fair with him, he was probably the strongest normal human in this world. The confidence he had on his own power was strongly built on his unmatched record of wins and victories in war and battles. For him, I was a 16-year-old trying to die early. Then let us ride. Only us and our blood riders, I offered. I knew the blood riders would try to kill me after I killed his Kale, so why delay that fact? Drogo smiled, amused by my words as he nodded. As you wish, I will piss your corpse, kid. You are no call. If you are counting on me dying to take a piss, I would recommend you taking that piss now. Otherwise you will die with it inside. I chuckled as I started to walk out of the tent. And yes, I am a cow. Ask the Dosh Khaleen. Drogo, while a savage, was a man of his word. After our conversation, he informed his colosser that he would come with my head before riding with me out of the sacred city to duel me, his blood riders besides him. Drogo had 3 blood riders, while I only had 1, but what they didn't know was that my 2 horses were pumped and ready to fight. We are going to crush your fucking skulls down. One of my horses said in a voice tone that would work perfectly for a heavy metal singer. You guys are going down. My horse, the one that I was mounting, said, hooves flexing slightly, ready to attack. I inwardly chuckled as I unmounted my horse, showing some respect. I had come to this duel without armor, considering that the Dothraki don't use it. After all, I wanted to be fair with him. You will make a great toilet, Drogo spat as I chuckled. You seriously need to change your trash talk, is quite depressing, I smiled. Drogo lunged forward, quickly sprinting towards me and coming closer, then jabbing out his arak in an attempt to cut. He was way faster than I anticipated. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of me, but reflex kicked in, and I ducked forward trying to cut his arm. Drogo noticed this at the last second and dodged my attack, only getting a small bleeding slice. Drogo eyed his cut and smiled as he sprinted at me again, but this time I was ready for his speed, so I just raised my sword and blocking his attack. The 2 blades clanged together, creating a rumbling sound that engulfed the planes we were using for our duel. The weight of my sword was dragging him down. Drogo immediately noticed that I was stronger than him physically, and decided to change his approach in battle to his superb agility. It didn't take him long to start pushing back hard. He was very strong. Without my super body, this battle would be impossible for me. I smiled as I jumped back, dodging a horizontal attack. Taking a deep breath, I dashed forward with my Valyrian blade out in front of me as I attempted to pierce his heart and end it all. But in a surprisingly good-timed dodge, he ducked under my blade and grasped my stomach. With his arak, I've of course noticed this and avoided lethal damage, but the cut was still painful. Not deep enough to be troubling, but deep enough to make me feel pain. Shit, that hurt. I cursed as I parried his attacks. It took me a couple of seconds to recover, and with the pain in my stomach, I was ready to end this. He was strong, so no reason to be going easy of him. With that in mind, I dashed forward at a blinding speed that surprised Drogo, grabbing his head and pushing it down to the ground with earth-shattering force, making him drop his arag. Once he was on the floor, I proceeded to slam my knee repeatedly into his face, paying him with interest the cut he delivered. When I was done, smashing my knee into his face, I go up and thrusted my blade through his heart. Blood splattered everywhere, but by the mashed potato look, his head he probably died way before my blade destroyed his heart. Now come, I don't have all day. Try and avenge your Khal and die, or kill yourselves either way. Don't waste my time, I said as I turned to the shocked blood riders. But before I can take a step forward, I feel something wetting my shoe. Looking down, I see that Drogo is pissing himself. Great, I told him, but nobody listens. Defeating Drogo was a bit harder than I expected. He was so far the strongest fighter I'd fought since I got here. He was powerful and had experience to back that power up. His blood riders, on the other hand, were pretty average. My horses took care of them. It was both hilarious and somewhat disturbing seeing my horses beating the crap out of them. What really disturbed me was that one of my horses tried to teabag one of the blood riders. My ravens had taught them that. I was sure of it, which made me realize that sharing pop culture with my animals might have been a bad idea. Let's go back to the city. I sighed, as my blood rider nodded, clearly disturbed by how his horse brutally killed one of the blood riders. The news of Drago's death brought some mixed emotions to his now my Khalasar. Like always, I offered them 2 options, submission or death. They choose submission. Daenerys woke up soon after my absorption of Drogo's Khalasar. She had overslept, and I had left pretty specific orders to my men to not let anyone wake her up. She was not happy at all that I had left a duel with a very fearsome Dothraki warrior that was famous for being nearly invincible in battle, without even telling her. Why? Why didn't you tell me? Daenerys was fuming, not angry, but worried, touching the bandages in my abdomen, with tears forming on her eyes. You were sleeping, and it was kind of something of the moment. I shrugged as I hugged her. He barely cut me, don't worry. I worry, that's all I can do. Daenerys cried, what would I do if you die? What would our kids do? With a hand, I brushed the tears of her face as I kissed her forehead. I'm sorry, I fail to see how things can affect you. But don't worry, I will always come back to you. No matter what I have to face. Besides, if I get a scar, I will look sexy. A promise I intended to keep. You better keep that promise, you stupid bear, Daenerys chuckled, burying her face on my chest, as her last tears dropped down. What promise? Coming back, or being more sexy? I chuckled. Both, Daenerys laughed. I'm still mad at you. All right, I will always come back, sexier. I laughed with her. That works, Daenerys chuckled. I stayed with Daenerys in my arms for hours, talking and chatting about normal stuff. I wasn't a king nor she was a queen at that moment. We simply were a couple enjoying a nice talk. Increasing my numbers so exponentially fast made the logistics a tad complicated. I first had to kill some Ko that wanted to take this chance and become Khals. After that, I had to make sure we would have enough food and stuff for 50,000 men, and to add the cherry to the top, I had ensure all my new men knew my rules. My only 2 rules. We don't rape, and we don't kill children. They begrudgingly accepted, so to ensure they wouldn't betray the first chance they had, I made all their horses kneel. This, in turn, made them considerably more compliant to my orders. To the point I now had 6 new blood riders whose names I had yet to learn, but who can blame? It was hard to memorize so many names. So in the end, after absorbing such a big Khalasar, I decided to stay in the Vestaz for a couple of months, so that I could contact El Ruro with a new shipment with stuff like medical supplies and etc., and organize my plan. Big your army is, winning we are, Rhoda said as he landed on my shoulder. Yes, you are correct, my little feathery fellow, I chuckled. Robert Baratheon POV 2 months later. Rose had informed me that the dragon bitch had married to no other than the little backstabbing bastard of that kid, Renard Mormont. Not only that, but the bitch was pregnant. I knew all along I was making the right decision, breaking the betrothal between those two, but even after the betrayal, I suffered. After the betrayal, Ned suffered. Ned refused to get the girl killed, nor the unborn bastards she would bring into the world. I won't dirty my hands that way, Robert, not even for you, Ned growled, as left resigning his position as the hand of the king. What a foolish honorable idiot, but I will make this right. With the help of Varys, I had hired many assassins to kill the girl and the brat. Whoever succeeded would get a lord title and some lands. More wine, my lord, my wine boy offered. Don't ask, just fill the damn cup, I growled. Varys POV. The game was starting to change from schemes to a path of violence and destruction. Unfortunately for Renard, he couldn't keep his secret any longer, for I had to keep my cover as the Master of Whispers, but I had bought him more than enough time. He had done so much during this year in Essos that I frankly doubt the assassins will succeed or even reach him. That man is as hard to kill as they come. But the young bear wasn't stupid, nor misinformed. I'm sure he will know about this before the assassins even start their job. I hope the young dragoness succeeded in taming the bear. I sighed. When I offered him this betrothal was for one reason, and one reason only. So when the day came to put Aegon in the throne, he would support him. But if my plan didn't help, I might have helped to create the biggest threat to the Aegon, the rightful ruler. I can help but wonder if the bear knows about Aegon. If so, what are his plans? The young Griff and the young bear, I mused as O'Ray. I wrote a letter to Illyrio about the situation of the realm, and one with instructions to help the young Griff should the need arise to, knowing full well who would win between a fight between young bear and the young Griff. I was loyal, not stupid. My boy Ronard will put a new dick on you, just so he can cut it again. Caw, 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 you bald dickless bitch. Unbeknownst to him, a raven was nearby, the same raven he intended to use. Ned Stark POV. Rodard had married the Targaryen girl. Both the Iron Islands and the Bear Island had stopped communications with us since the betrothal broke, and Robert wanted to start another fucking war. I shouldn't have accepted this. Ever. With Rodard married, the Sansa of the realm would be fine, but I had to let Robert once again do as he pleased. Sansa hated me for it, hated me for marching her with what she called an entitled little bastard as a future husband. She hated me for pushing Renard out of her life. She hated Cat even more. Prepare my things. We are leaving to Winterfell in a week. I ordered my men. Sansa wanted to go home. So did Arya, and frankly so did I. Tywin Lannister POV. The young lord had played beyond my expectations. I wanted to shackle him, and he took the chains and hit me with them. He married someone with a powerful claim to the throne. He was gathering an army. He was getting ready for war. He had been for a long time. I just now realized, but even the mightiest fall, and he will fall, for what is a bear to a lion. I wanted to use you, but I will have to end you now, I sighed as I took a sip of wine. Maybe I should send Gregor Clegane to kill him, and rape the girl. It would be quite poetic to repeat that act once again. Pause. Emu kill him. Lady Macorn will give birth to 2 healthy ravens, and we the Raven Legion will ensure nothing happens to them. No overgrown monkey will stop us. The raven that was listening to Tywin cawed in rage. What an annoying bird, Tywin sighed. You won't succeed, Cod. My master will fucking end you. 2 months later, the news of my marriage to Daenerys spread like a pandemic across the realm, which in turn made me the #1 enemy of Westeros to some. Assassination attempts were a common occurrence now. Merchants and other individuals would try to end Daenerys' life every now and then. The reason behind this, Varys? When he offered me a deal, I knew he wanted something from me. I initially thought he wanted to put Viserys on the throne, or any Targaryen for that matter. I was correct in this assumption. What I didn't know until a month ago was there was another Targaryen roaming free. I really should have read the books more in depth, I sighed as I read the letter Varys intended for Illyria. Aegon Targaryen, or how they call him, the young Griff. Varys had somehow managed to keep this little secret away from me. But now that I knew what to do with him, what to do, should I kill him? I knew close to zero about him. For all I knew, he could be a great guy, but it didn't matter if he was the best person in the world. I wasn't going to give up my plans of conquering Westeros and getting throne. I suppose I could offer him what I had offered everyone so far. You either submit or die. He will have the choice. Now with Varys, my decision was set the moment someone tried to poison Daenerys. I don't care how much he has to keep his cover. I will kill the bald bastard and make him regret ever making an enemy out of me. If I wasn't as informed as I was, Daenerys would be dead and so would be my babies. No matter what he was thinking when he revealed our information, or why he did it, what mattered was that he put in danger the life of my unborn children and wife. And for that he would die, painfully. Tywin Lannister, another soon-to-be-dead man. They really oversell the old lion. He really thinks Gregor Clegane will even see a glimpse of Daenerys. He will die before he can even breath close to her. We are leaving Vaes Dothrak today, right? Daenerys entered my tent, with her 4th-month baby bump showing. Every morning she would wake up even more beautiful than the last day, shining like my own little star. Yes, I smiled as I kneeled to kiss her bountiful baby bump. We have been 4 months here, we have everything we need, but if you feel like staying, we could. I don't tire you. I'm pregnant, not made out of crystal, Daenerys giggled, brushing my hair with her fingers. Is there a difference? I teased. Daenerys just laughed at my tease as she added her own. I might be made out of crystal, but look at you, the strongest man in the kneeling to my fragile pregnant feet. I chuckled, not quite ready to lose. But I recall you getting on your knees pretty often for me. All right, let's call it a tie. Daenerys laughed. Fair enough, I nodded as I stood up, giving her a kiss. We should be leaving tonight. Let your handmaidens know, all right? Yes, Daenerys nodded in agreement as she started to walk out of the tent. By the way, will I ride my horse, or... Abso-fucking-lutely not. You will ride in a cart so padded with comfort, you will feel you are floating. I didn't know if riding a horse was a good idea with all the movement this brought. Alrighty, Daenerys chuckled as she caressed her belly. Your papa is quite overprotective, isn't he? I am, and I wear that shit with honor, I laughed. By the way, can you tell your ravens to stop trying to brood my belly? Daenerys added, trying hard not to laugh. I wake up every morning with 10 to 20 ravens on my belly. Tall. No brooding? How in the hell will your eggs hatch then? No brooding this generation. I swear. Call.
Brooding, we will.
Stop us, you can't. You're us. Caw, what they said. We will continue with the extra brooding to ensure they are strong, ravens caw. Unfortunately, I laughed as I shrugged, is out of my hands. Very well, Daenerys sighed. I will see you later. I continued to arrange all the matters I had to before leaving. Besides me were the eggs I had bought so long ago, my ravens still brooding them. Perhaps it was time to try and hatch them. I was called the son of the fire, the champion of the light by the god of fire himself, and those titles fit perfectly with this situation. Or at least that is what I wanted to believe. I remembered from the books that dragon eggs are notoriously difficult to hatch, and even though they can maintain the spark of life inside of them for decades if not centuries, the secret key to hatching them seems to involve some form of blood magic, as the house words of the Targaryens hint. It requires fire and blood. And considering how Daenerys hatched them, I had a general idea how to do it. To do so, I would have to burn the eggs in roaring flames, while another creature is simultaneously being burned alive, a life in exchange for a life, fire, and blood. Dragons in the wild probably just use prey animals to fulfill this purpose, but I wasn't sure an animal would work. Besides, they were extremely loyal to me, so human sacrifice will do the trick quite nicely. It was at least worth the shot. Maybe I could put Viserys in the flames. It would certainly be interesting to see if he can burn or not. Time to burn these eggs, I chuckled. Coss, you will not Gordon Ramsay our babies. Coss. I sighed. I would now have to explain to them why I wanted to do it. They had grown quite protective of the eggs. Allow me to explain, I chuckled. Ned Stark POV. The seed is strong, Jon Arryn's last words. I had finally found out what he meant. Robert didn't have any lawful children. Cersei had cheated on him. I was glad I had sent my daughters back to Winterfell a few months back, for what I had to do would bring the realm to chaos. And here I was sitting by myself, waiting for someone to confront the lies. Cersei, the person I wanted to talk to, arrived and walked up to me. You're in pain. Cersei pointed to my shoulder, mocking my injury after the altercation I had with her brother, her lover. I shift uncomfortably with my cane as I slowly stand. I've had worse, my lady. Cersei feigned interest as she added, perhaps it's time to go home. The South doesn't seem to agree with you. This wasn't going nowhere, so time to push it. I know the truth Jon Arryn died for. Cersei eyed me for a second with her eyes showing mixed emotions between worry and pride. Do you, Lord Stark? Is that why you called me here, to pose me riddles? I noticed her fear, but my eyes drifted to the bruise she had on her face. I inquired, pointing at her bruise. Has Robert done this before? Cersei smiled as she shook her head. Jaime would have killed him. My brother is worth 1,000 of your friends. I glared at her. Your brother, or your lover? Cersei simply smirked at me, making me realize I was right on my hunch. She then stood up proudly, as she added, the Targaryens wed brothers and sisters for 300 years to keep bloodlines pure. Jaime and I are more than brother and sister. We shared a womb. We came into this world together. We belong together. All of this was starting to make sense. It wasn't Tyrion who pushed Bran, it was one of them. My son saw them and they tried to silence him still. My son saw you with him, I said with my blood boiling in anger. Cersei took a deep breath, nodding as she added, Do you love your children? What kind of stupid question was that? With all my heart, I answered, not skipping a beat. Cersei smiled, No more than I love mine. I scoffed, And they're all Jaime's? My comment made Cersei laugh. Thank the gods. In the rare event that Robert leaves his whores for long enough to stumble drunk into my bed, I finish him off in other ways. In the morning, he doesn't remember. Cersei always hated Robert, and this was her way to make him pay, by making him fathered kids that weren't his. You've always hated him. Cersei eyed me in disbelief, as she added, Hated him? I worshipped him. Every girl in the 7 Kingdoms dreamed of him, but he was mine by oath. And when I finally saw him on our wedding day in the Sept of Baelor, lean and fierce and black-bearded, it was the happiest moment of my life. Then that night he crawled on top of me, stinking of wine, and did what he did, what little he could do, and whispered in my ear, Lyanna, your sister was a corpse and I was a living girl, and he loved her more than me. I can understand her pain somewhat, but what she did was unforgivable. When the king returns from his hunt, I'll tell him the truth. You must be gone by then, you and your children. I will not have their blood on my hands. Go as far away as you can, with as many men as you can, because wherever you go, Robert's wrath will follow you." Cersei laughed, and she spat, "And what of my wrath, Lord Stark? You should have taken the realm for yourself. Jaime told me about the day King's Landing fell. He was sitting in the Iron Lion, and you made him give it up. All you needed to do was climb the steps yourself. Such a sad mistake." I eyed her before I shook my head. I've made many mistakes in my life, but that wasn't one of them. Cersei smiled coldly. "Oh, but it was. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground." With that, she left. I could only hope he would take my advice and leave. Caw dead. He just yeeted himself. Caw. After gathering all my belongings and ensuring Daenerys had the best and most comfortable cart to travel around, as this world could offer, I left with my new Khalasar to hunt down the remaining Dothraki tribes. I had also constructed a very detailed security team to ensure her safety, with a personal guard of 500 men at her call. That, of course, without counting ravens and horses. I wasn't worried about the assassins. They, after all, were a bunch of idiots trying to become lords, and this was their ticket to the easy life, or so they thought. Killing us was harder than killing Robert himself. They were bound to fail, but even though I knew that their failure was imminent, anger fueled my very core, consuming my soul in a spiral of hate and anger. The idea of Daenerys dying, the idea of holding the lifeless bodies of my children in my arms, as impossible as it was, infuriated me beyond human comprehension. Torturing the assassins before killing was a quick relief of this feeling, but it wasn't enough. I would not be satisfied until all of those who dare to target my family are destroyed. Not like this wasn't any different to my original plan. No, it was the same. But this time my drive was stronger, more aggressive. My reasons to take the throne had changed. No, they were the same, but I had a few extra reasons to do it now. We located the next biggest Khalasar. I turned to see in amusement the raven that had landed in the head of my horse, bowing politely. "How far away?" I inquired. "A week and horse or so. Call W. Right now, I had to focus on getting these savages under me. I would have more than enough time to get my well-deserved retribution. They better enjoy this time I'm away, for it is more vibrant than the darkness that awaits them. "Let's go," I ordered my men, changing our course. Daenerys, POV. So much has changed since the day I met him. I was afraid of him at first, of what represented being his. Yet, he made me feel like nothing in the world mattered, only us, and little by little I found myself craving his company, his laugh, his stupid sense of humor, how he smelled, how he kissed me in the mornings before leaving. And without even noticing it, I fell head down in love. He made it so easy to love him. And here we are, I smiled, touching my belly softly. But the flutter of many wings snapped me out of my train of thought. Behind me there were around 20 ravens, all staring at me intensely. "You guys want to brood my belly, right?" I inquired. A few months ago, talking with animals would have been ludicrous, but now, not so much. The ravens nodded in unison. "And you won't take a no for an answer." I chuckled. Caw. The ravens nodded, confirming my suspicions. Back to Ronard POV. With my new army, fighting the other Dothraki tribes got exponentially easier. The Dothraki weren't known for their strategic battle forms. I had just conquered another tribe with 10,000 warriors. Why would they fight someone with an army of 50,000 soldiers with those numbers? I don't know. Well, I did. Dothraki. Quite straightforward. They would go like idiots into battle and try to destroy anything on their way with pure strength. Normally this would work if they had bigger numbers, but they didn't. So after killing their call, once again I had increased my numbers, and thanks to the idiot blood riders that followed him, I finally had my fire sacrifice to try and hatch my dragons. "How are you doing?" I said as I entered my wife's cart. Nothing, she was covered in ravens brooding her belly. "Your ravens are brooding me," Daenerys glared at me playfully. "What do you think?" "I think they are doing a wonderful job," I shrugged. "So how many soldiers do we have now?" Daenerys sighed. I could see she wanted to laugh, but was too stubborn to do it. "Well, I think almost 60,000, I hummed. I hadn't really counted how many we have exactly, but it was along those lines. "How are my babies doing?" "Fine. Your feathery friends are seeing to it," Daenerys chuckled. "Caw. We're ensuring they get the best brooding." "Caw. We are giving them the brooding they deserve." The ravens brooding her pregnant belly were proudly stating their awesome brooding skills. I can see that, I chuckled as I approached to kiss her. I wanted to tell her soon I would try and hatch the dragon's eggs. One of her dreams was to see a dragon, but if this didn't work, it would only disappoint her. So I would wait until I had those babies out of their eggs. Well, I'm off to rearrange some stuff. I just got more men into my banners, and before the logistics of all this shit comes back to bite me in the ass, I need to do it. Take care, Daenerys smiled, giving me a kiss. Don't come back late. I need my personal pillow. Oh, that sounds like quite the invitation, I smirked at her, getting a playful punch to my shoulder. My, that pregnancy is making you quite volatile. I suppose, Daenerys giggled. 2 blood riders, 3 eggs, and lots of fire. I had all the ingredients to hatch them according to what I saw and read of it in my past life. But just to be sure, I went the extra mile. I replicated the exact same thing Daenerys did on the show to hatch them. I tied the blood riders, making sure they couldn't move, putting the eggs above them as I set the wood beneath them in fire. As I did so, the voice of the god of light resonated in my head. Call, my babies, son of the fire, champion of the light. A part of me wanted to touch the fire as it was starting to spread. Logically, I knew this would burn me, but I still wanted to do it. Maybe I was crazy, maybe I had been affected beyond repair in this world, or maybe there was a reason for my desire to touch the fire. Son of the fire, champion of the light, don't be afraid. Fuck it, I know it's stupid, but I'm going to try, I thought, knowing full well this was a bad idea, but if I didn't, I would forever regret not trying it. But I wasn't an idiot. I would not dive into the fire like it was a swimming pool. I would first try with a finger and see. As I dipped my finger in the fire, flinching preemptively, I noticed that I wasn't feeling any pain. Surprised by this, I dipped my entire hand and all I felt was warmth, instead of the pain I was expecting. Well, that solves the son of the fire thing, I chuckled as I walked into the fire as if it was the most normal thing. My men started to panic at this. I'm okay. I'm apparently fireproof now. The blood riders, on the other hand, were screaming in pain, the fire burning their skin, scorching them to the other world. As their screams of pain faded into the background, I focused on the eggs, touching them, feeling the warmth inside of them, the spark of life growing. A life for a life, they would hatch by blood and fire. Only after the blood riders died and their screams stopped, the eggs started to crack. The black egg first, the dragon that would have been originally known as Drogo. Crack. Hello, little fella, I said, extending my hand to the baby dragon that looked at me curiously, his mind still undeveloped and not sharing much but emotions. He was currently imprinting with me. Soon after, his 2 brothers followed suit, cracking their eggs. By this point, not Drogo was on my shoulder, hissing. How about we go and see Mommy? I chuckled as I offered my other arm to the other 2 baby dragons. Are our babies okay? Cull. I told you he would Gordon Ramsay our babies. Curl. 2 months later, dragons, they are quite spoiled since birth, hissing and demanding attention at all times, be it left or right. I would see them climbing up my legs to demand my absolute attention. Not gonna lie, they were quite adorable, cute little rascals. Daenerys was more than happy to see them and have them. She was beaming with happiness of the highest degree, petting and showering with affections the 3 newborns. Dragons, she was so excited she had yet to ask, how in the hell did I hatch them? The 3 dragons reacted to Daenerys differently. The 2 smallest ones were shy at first, but after some food and bribes they relented to her affections. Except for not Drogo, he didn't like Daenerys yet. I could feel his emotions flaring when she was near me. In other words, he was jealous. He was positive to the point of being stupid. Kawi have located the last big Dothraki tribe. A raven informed as he flew into my lap, getting a hiss from not Drogo. The raven simply responded by literally bitch-slapping not Drogo. Caw! Don't hiss at me, young chick. Chick is how you call a baby raven. Hiss, slap, hiss, slap, hiss, slap. That continued for about 10 minutes, but in the end, my little package of anger decided to give up. Since I hatched these babies, I had almost conquered all the remaining Dothraki tribe since the day I hatched them, and today I would finally get all the Dothraki under my banner, and start on my next item on the agenda, the Free Cities. But for now, names what to call these babies. Daenerys wanted to name one like her brother, not Shitstain. Rygale. My ravens requested to name the other one, and being that I thought it was hilarious and not really troubling for me, I allowed. So they called not Viserion, Krew with a Q. And with that, all that was left was to name, not Drogo. I pondered with names for a long time, something memorable.
Valsarion?
Yes, that was it. Strong and with meaning behind it. Yes, it came from a video game, but honestly, it was awesome. The Dragon of Earth, the bringer of the Cataclysm. Neltharion, I petted the newborn baby dragon, who somehow, even with his undeveloped cognitive abilities, was happy and felt proud of his name. The last big Dothraki tribe has a little bit above 11,000 riders compared to my big army composed of 80,000 soldiers made the battle one-sided and predictable. Killing the Khal and his blood riders at this point wasn't even a challenge. I still had other minor tribes to conquer that together formed around another 20,000 riders, but they were scattered around the lands, separated in the few thousands, and for now, what I had would have to do. Well, time to move out here, I sighed. Finally, I had finished what I started. But I wonder how is Westeros doing? Sansa Stark POV. Father had sent me to Winterfell a few months ago, and I had happily accepted. Joffrey was nothing to what I originally expected from him. He was a little monster, feeding on others' suffering, leeching from the pain and agony around him. I was angry at Father. I wasn't sure I hated him, but it was close. I was happy with the prospect of being married to Ronard, but now he had married. And like Ronard said, Father once again bent over for Robert. But I wasn't angry enough to want or desire his death. He was still my father. And the last thing I told him before coming was, I hate you. I wanted to fix that. Now, he was arrested for treason, and there was a big chance I would lose him forever. There was a big chance the last interaction I had with him was that, I'm tired of feeling like this. I teared up in my bed. Helpless, useless. Please, God, save my father. Please help my brother. Please, I beg you. I cried as I wished with all my heart that the gods blessed and protected my brother's army that was marching south to get father back. Tywin Lannister POV. Ned Stark had been arrested for spouting the things that in nature were nonsensical. My grandson wanted him death. Cersei apparently was the only one that saw the bigger picture this time. She wanted to keep him alive, so did I. We had nothing to hold the North over Ned Stark, while in his idiocy had foreseen somewhat these events, and as so to avoid his daughters being used against him and the North, he sent them back to Winterfell. At least that's what I wanted to believe. But I hardly believe the Honorable Wolf is smart enough to play so far ahead. But regardless of whether he knew or not, he had outplayed us. And if Joffrey killed him, we would have a full-blown war and nothing to hold them down. And that is why we needed him alive, to keep the North in check. They had already derailed enough, marching south with an army. Like always, I had to fix my family's mistakes. I'm going to King's Landing, I announced, leaving my solar, leaving my cousins confused. Ned Stark POV. I was thrown in a dungeon soon after I confronted the Queen for her infidelities. It's been almost 2 months since they threw me here, with nothing but rats to keep me company. Lord Stark, the despicable voice of Varys echoed in the dungeon. What are you doing here? You can't betray more, can't you? I scoffed. I never allied myself to you, Lord Stark. Varys sighed. So what are you doing here? I inquired, annoyed at his presence. Looking to help you, but be aware I'm no hero, Varys replied nonchalantly, with a sigh through the bars of my prison. I scoffed at that. Can you free me from this pit? Varys hummed at that. I could, but will I? No. As I said, I'm no hero. I laughed bitterly at that. What do you want then? How do you pretend to help me? Tell me. No stories. No riddles. Tell me, what do you want? Varys sighed. Peace. Did you know that your son is marching south with an army of Northmen? Loyal lad fighting for his father's freedom. Robb was marching south, looking for war. Why would he do something so foolish? Robb, he's just a boy. Varys chuckled. Boys have been conquerors before, but the man giving Cersei sleepless nights is the late king's brother. Lord Stannis has the best claim to the throne. He's a proven battle commander, and he is utterly without mercy, and of course Lord Ronard with his Dothraki army and dragons, I hear.
I scoffed.
Stannis Baratheon is Robert's true heir. The throne is his by rights. Ronard might have an army, but he wasn't the heir, not had any right. Varys smiled. You helped the Baratheons rise, you helped Robert sit on the throne when he had no birthright. Don't patronize me with that, Lord Stark. It would be a shame to throw your life away. Cersei is no fool. She knows a tamed wolf has more uses. He was right in one thing. I had helped Robert sit on the throne, but if he thought that of all the persons in the world I would serve that despicable woman, he was out of his marbles. You want me to serve the woman who murdered my king, who butchered my men, who crippled my son? Varys shook his head with a victorious smile. I want you to serve the realm. Tell the queen you will confess your vile treason. Tell your son to lay down his sword and proclaim Joffrey as the heir, and you will live. I laughed at that. You think my life is some precious thing to me, that I would trade my honor for a few more years of what? You grew up with actors, you learned their craft, and you learnt it well, but I grew up with soldiers. I learned how to die a long time ago. Varys smiled once again. Pity. Such a pity. Varys moves to leave, but drops a key close to me. I owe the young bear a favor, which was originally intended for your daughters, but you saved them before I could. And while I'm no Lannister, I always pay my debts. Runard had foreseen so far ahead of this game of schemes, and even after all that happened, he had gone out of his way to ensure the safety of my daughters. Farewell, Lord Stark. Farewell, Varys said as he left the dungeon. The guards that were guarding my cell were dead. I was partially free. I owe my life to Ronard, I sighed. Yes, you do, motherfucker, Carl. Now scram before they fuck you. Unbeknownst to him, a raven that for some reason had an eye patch was watching him. I had completed step 1 of my complicated mission, and it was time to move forward with the next part of the plan, conquering the Free Cities. The Free Cities are 9 powerful cities, each one with their own government and army to protect themselves from invading forces. Not all of them are powerful, but they all are full of riches, mostly because they engage in extensive trade contact with the 7 kingdoms and other lands, and are known for practicing slavery. Unlike the Dothraki, they would prove a bit more challenging to conquer. All I knew about the Free Cities, historically speaking, is that they were founded centuries ago as colonies of the Valyrian Freehold. But like they say, every empire comes to an end, and when the Freehold and its dragon lords were destroyed in the doom of Valyria 400 years ago and the empire fell, the Free Cities emerged from the dust as autonomous entities dominating much of the land between the River Rhoyne and the western coast of the continent. Volantis being the oldest and most populous one, and at one point the most powerful of the Free Cities. But time had passed, and while still formidable, it had been gradually eclipsed by the growing power of Braavos. So now I had to prioritize my targets and moves accordingly. Rhavis, the most powerful and northerly of Free Cities, led by the Sea Lord. It is home to the influential Iron Bank of Braavos and the secretive assassins guild known as the Faceless Men, and my hardest target, they had enough money to hire an army as big as mine, and destroy mine if I played my cards the wrong way, which put this little bitch at the end of my list. Lys was an easy target, and the first on my list. It was located on an island in the Summer Sea, which would allow me to use my Krakens to destroy their formidable navy. Rhaegar would be my second target, for how easy it would be to attack it. After all, Myr was a seaport on an arm of the narrow sea close to Lys, which allowed me to also use my Krakens. They were famous for their skilled craftsmen and their products, particularly optical lenses and fine lace. Lys and Myr have been bitter rivals for centuries, perpetually fighting over the disputed lands between them, and I, like a good Samaritan, will end that dispute once and for all. I deserve some praise, don't I? Yes, Neltharion tilted his head in confusion, seeing the map I was using. You will one day burn those who oppose our family, I chuckled, getting a hiss of agreement. Should I be worried I felt agreement on that hiss? Nah. Tyrosley Glys was an easy target, an island ready for the taking, and due to its location between the Stepstones, disputed lands, and Westeros, it is a major place for hiring the services of various professional sellsword companies to serve in the various conflicts of these different regions, but in these cases it would get assimilated into my army. Norvus, there was nothing special about them, which put them as my next target on the list, mostly because they were close to the last targets. Pentos, the city where the fat man Illyrio lives. It's a major seaport, land-based, and one of the most vulnerable cities with no protection against the Dothraki raids. When and how I would conquer it was unknown and really non-important, but conquering it would be a good way to stop Varys and his little plan to support the young Griff. Quhur was among the most interesting targets on my list. It was located in the immense forest of Quhur near the edge of the Dothraki Sea, which was beneficial now that I had my Dothraki with me. It would be easy to attack them, but they were really good on stopping raids and armies. They had their own unsullied army to protect themselves, making them perhaps one of the hardest cities to conquer on my list. But I was really interested in them, for they were known for their immensely skilled blacksmiths, who can even reforge Valyrian steel, something that would come handy for the long night. Hiss. Neltharion was especially interested in Quhor. Yes, you will help Daddy to mass-produce Valyrian steel, I laughed. If that's even possible, of course. Hiss. Neltharion hissed, as he curled up inside my fur jacket to sleep. This will be incredibly creepy once you grow to be several times bigger than me, I chuckled, imagining a fully grown dragon trying to use me as a pillow. With a sigh, I continued making my list, getting to the last city, Volantis, the most populous and corrupt city, leading the market on slaves like Braavos. They would pose a challenge, but infinitely minor to Braavos, for they did have as much money as them to keep me at bay, and they would be the last to fall. Well, not really the last, for Braavos and Lorith would be the last ones, after Volantis. Lais, Mer, Tyrus, Novus, Pentos, Quhor, Volantis, Ruziath, Brovos. My list was complete. I would conquer the cities in that order. And then I would get the fucking throne. And of course I would kill Varys. Cockless bastard. If he thinks I will let him double-cross me just because he is the fat and bald version of Kent, he is sorely mistaken. Kent from Barbie is a dickless joke. Haha, another pun. Well, it seems I'm trapped, I chuckled, realizing that if I moved I would wake up Neltharion, and like a cat you must not do that. I woke up next morning to see Neltharion being fed by the ravens like he was a chick, and surprisingly he wasn't biting their heads off while they regurgitated the meat and corn inside his tiny dragon mouth. Caw. Eat so you can be a healthy raven, caw. The scene was just precious, which gave me a reason and the time to leave. Neltharion noticed this and ran after me, climbing me like I was a fucking scratch post. Hey buddy, I'll be back. The ravens will take care of you for a bit, okay? I chuckled, still surprised he was so attached to me. Hiss, Neltharion hissed like he wasn't sure if to believe me or not. I promise, I chuckled, wondering if I would have these weird conversations with him once he was fully grown. After a second of deep consideration, Neltharion relented and went back to the ravens, leaving me with a hiss that translated to, "You better come back." Ha ha. Adorable, I chuckled, leaving the tent. I explained to my generals what was our next step. The Dothraki were more than happy, saying I was a true stallion for deciding to take the world under my hoof. Nice. The Ironborn were also excited, for I was making everybody pay the iron price. Frankly, I should have seen it coming. Daenerys, on the other hand, already knew about my plans, and knew that while I loved her, she could not stop me from doing this. While she wanted to conquer Westeros, but she didn't want me to do the same here, for she feared I would lose my life, but she understood my reasons. Aren't we overreaching? Daenerys asked worriedly. We must do this, I reassured her. Ned Stark POV. I still had yet to escape King's Landing. I remembered that Arya had told me about the secret passages that she had found while playing around the castle, and thanks to that, I had been roaming in them, avoiding getting captured. I had yet to find the right passage that would lead me outside the castle walls, outside this wretched place. I will soon be back home, so wait for me, I sighed. Things might not look good now, but I was certainly better than a couple days ago. There was also another matter at hand. I owe Roddard my life, and I had to pay that debt. What are you still doing here, Ka? I swear these motherfuckers keep getting dumber and dumber. The raven that had been following me called like he wanted to tell me something.